Hello world, and we are back. I'm outside the poker room for the day 2 of this challenge. Weather is so much nicer, don't film my car. Hopefully the good weather is going to be a sign for some bounce back. Dropped about 600 bucks yesterday. Hopefully we can turn it around, and if we make 1100 the next 2 days, then we'll actually complete the challenge. We have not given up yet, but if things go south, maybe I could buy a specialty dining or something, because definitely an uphill climb at this point. We buy into the 1-3 deep stack game for $1,000, waiting for the 2-5 to open up, and we are greeted with the first hand of note. On the button, we look down at pocket aces. The hijack raised to $15. We are certainly not just calling when we have aces. Our 3-bet sizing doesn't need to be too big, as we're going to play the whole hand in position with the best starting hand in No Limit Texas Hold'em. So only 3-bet it up to $45. It folds all the way back to the hijack, and that player makes the call. So we are heads up to a flop, which comes 7-4-3 rainbow. This board is quite dangerous. My opponent could easily have any set on board. He could have 5-6 some of the time. But on this one, we're going to do a slight deviation from what would be like the optimal strategy. I nearly potted. I bet $80. Reason being, if my opponent has like 8s, 9s, or 10s, those hands are definitely going to call this large size bet, but when like a king hits the turn, it's going to be hard to get multiple streets out of a lot of those hands when this board is very dynamic, meaning the nuts and ranges change drastically based on certain runouts. When I make it $80, my opponent makes the call, and the turn is the 6 of diamonds. Obviously not my favorite. If my opponent had pocket 5s or pocket 6s, I expect both those hands to call the $80 bet, and they both beat me now. But that is the benefit of playing in position. When the board gets worse for me and I'm in position, my opponent checks to me, I get to check this back and reevaluate on the river. And when I check it back, the river is the 9 of hearts. Alright, so all low cards. Maybe my opponent has like 10s plus some of the time. I check back turn to call pretty much any sizing on the river. But then my opponent symbols like $250, which was massive. He only had like a $400 stack to start, so he left like $100 behind.
Oh, come on, I can't lose this.
And now I'm just like devastated at this run out. I honestly think that when my opponent called the $80, I think he has a 7x a lot of the time. And out of all the 7x pretty much possible to call a 3-bet out of position, 7-5 beats me, 7-6 beats me, I beat 7-8, and 7-9 beats me. I think any of his overpairs would bet slightly smaller on this river, closer to like 125, maybe 150. 250 just feels like a lot more nutted, and I just decided to let this one go. And my opponent's nice enough to show me 7-6 offsuit. So the only silver lining for me is that I got all the money in when I had the best hand on the flop and pre-flop, and then no additional money went in once my opponent outturned me. Hopefully we can get some of it back, because when I'm in the low jack, I look down at king 10 of spades. I raise it up to $15. The button does not, I guess, see my raise because he tries to bet $12 as an open. Somewhat suspect, but it's going to be ruled just to call at this point, and the other players fold. So I'm going heads up to a flop, which is queen 9-5 with 2 diamonds. So we have a gutter, not the worst scenario. I'm going to check my entire range to my opponent out of position here. I think we get a lot of information based on his bet sizing or action in general. And when I check it to him, he checks it back. The turn is the 10 of hearts, brings 2 hearts, so now with 2 flush draws on board, we turn second pair. When my opponent checked flop, I doubt he has a queen almost ever, but he could have any of the 2 flush draws, he could have pair plus straight draws, and my second pair should be good here a lot of the time. So size up a little bit for the size of the pot. We bet $20 into 30, and my opponent does not take too long before raising to 70. I very much was not expecting this at all. I expect my opponent to call with either of the flush draws. I expect him to call with pair plus straight draws. I mean, maybe he has straight king jack, even though I block it, but I will never know because I'm just going to let this one go. My opponent does not show, so we will lose another one, and my opponent seems to be putting a lot of aggression against me. On the next fun hand of poker, I'm in the small blind with king 7 of spades. There's an early position player, raises to $15. We end up going 5 ways because suited king for the price I was getting seemed reasonable to go multi-way. And we flop a flush. Board comes queen, 10, 6, all spades. We have the second nuts, and when it checks to the pre-flop aggressor, he bets $20. That will certainly not be enough. I raise to 60. An early position player who was a limp caller of the 15 now jams for 220. And when the pre-flop aggressor folds, I'm never going anywhere. Hopefully my opponent just has a smaller flush. Maybe he has like ace 10 with the ace of spades. That'd be pretty good. And when I make the call, I show my hand and my opponent then flips over ace deuce of spades.
Bastard. Anything but that.
So we are stone dead. There is no run out. That will save me because I will certainly not get a random runner straight flush. And we will be 0 for 3 on this 1-3 table. But that's okay. The 2-5 table has called and it answers with pocket aces. We start the 1-3 with pocket aces. We start the 2-5 with pocket aces. We'd rather have it here because this hand will probably be bigger and hopefully go my way. When 3 players limp for $5, that will certainly not be enough. I raise it up to $35 and ironically all 3 players call. So definitely need to go bigger. My raise sizes going forward. I'm not getting any folds at all. But I suppose that's not a bad thing when you have pocket aces. And we're 4 ways to a flop, which comes queen, queen, 8 with 2 spades. On this one, it checked all the way to the hijack, who then led for $25. And these very small leads in multi-way pots, I often think are draws, trying to name their own price. This player in particular, I saw him lead with middle pair a few times for small, just to kind of see where he's at. And we're going to let him know where he's at. I raised to $90. Can easily get called by spade draws, maybe pocket 10s, jack 9, a random 8, all kinds of stuff. And the small blind does the whole, oh, I don't really know what to do. You know, shakes his head, looks very disappointed. And then somehow, when you don't know what to do, finds the option to go all in.
No, make it stop! Make it stop! Stop it!
So this is just a very easy, reliable tell. When a recreational player looks very visibly disappointed and then raises, they just always have it. If the 8 was off suit, I would consider calling here. But when it's suited, it's just always a queen trying to protect themselves against flush draws. And ironically, the hijack tanks for like ever. He thinks for probably 45 seconds to a minute before folding. So it's possible I may have ran into 2 queens because I expect an 8 to just fold to raise, but it's possible I just ran into 2 people today and we fold, and it looks like aces have been cracked 2 times today. Well, if that didn't work, maybe ace 10 offsuit will work. From under the gun, I raised to $20. The low jack and the big blind decide to call, so we end up going 3 ways to a flop, which comes bink, ace 10 3 rainbow. Flopping 2 pair is amazing. When it checks to me, I actually want to lead here and just like build the pot when I have a super strong hand. But if I'm checking my whole range out of position, I'm going to check this one too. Luckily, the low jack does not disappoint. He bets $35. When the other player folds, it's on me. I'm going to just call this one. The board is so dry, I don't need to protect myself against anything. And if my opponent's bluffing, he's the type where I don't expect him to give up if he has air. And when I make the call, the turn is the ace of spades. In a perfect world, my opponent would have like ace jack here, and we're just going to get stacks in. When I check to my opponent, I'm hoping to see a bet, because if he bets, I can certainly raise this and get all the money in against an ace almost pure. But my opponent checks it back. Very much not what I wanted to see, but the river is the 9 of spades, so it's possible my opponent has a spade draw, like maybe he just has 5, 6 of spades, turns some backdoor equity and wants to try to hit it when he thinks he's versing an ace some of the time. Additionally, I've ruled out a lot of the premiums, like if my opponent had pocket 3s, he never would have given up. If my opponent had an ace, he never would have given up. I blocked so much of the upper end value in this hand. I think that the best play here is to check and hope my opponent goes for a bluff with his air. I think we give up value against like pocket 8s and maybe like a random 10. But if we just always bet river when we had really strong hands, our opponents could theoretically play perfect against us. We want to have some check raises in there, and the absolute nuts seems like a good one to have from time to time. But I'm getting absolutely owned today. My opponent just checks it back, and we have to show the full house. Getting only $35 in post-flop when we have 2 pair. So aces cracked twice, absolute minimum with made hands. Things are just not really going too well right now. But maybe suited connectors are the answer, because I look down at 7-8 of diamonds from the hijack. With 1 limp, the +1 player raised to $20. I'm going to just call this one. Seems reasonable, just play suited connectors, multi-way. The button, big blind, and limp are calls, so we end up going 5 ways to a flop, which is queen 4 deuce with 1 diamond. So we whiff pretty hard. We're not really putting any money into this hand. But when our opponents check to us, we check, and it checks all the way through. When the turn is the 3 of diamonds, since no one put any money in it, it checks to me a second time, I can rule out anyone having a queen here almost always. So we're going to go closer to pot here. We'd love for this hand to just get folds and us win. But when I bet $80, it folds all the way to the +1 player. He decides to make the call. And we certainly do not make our flush on the river. The river is the jack of clubs. And when my opponent checks to me, I think we have to go for a bluff. But our size here should be pretty small because the story we're telling is we just have a queen. We checked back flop to see where we're at. Everyone checked. We think our queen is good. And now we're going for 2 streets against 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s. So I bet $140.
Are you out of your mind? Don't do this, Eliza. Don't do this.
I think this puts all these middling pocket pairs in a really tough spot. Like, how could they call when there's 2 overs out there? When my opponent goes in the tank for a decently long time, I already know he doesn't have a queen. So we think we sized correctly. We think our story's credible. I think we ranged our opponent well. But he does eventually find the call. And he shows pocket 10s, and that is certainly good. Even our bluffs are really just not going our way today. But maybe we're on a comeback trail because I make a straight and get a $100 value bet on the river paid off. That's going to help chip away at our deficit. Before we look down at ace-9 of hearts from the small blind, when the undergun player makes it $20 +1 calls, I call, which this really should just be a 3-bet or fold. Probably shouldn't call out of position with ace-9 suited. But we do, and the big blind calls. We end up going 4 ways to a flop, which is ace-jack-5 with 2 clubs. And this is why you shouldn't even call with this hand, because now we have top pair, and we might not even be good. We have a lot of reverse implied odds to just pay off better aces, because we can't really fold at this point. But when I check, big blind checks, the undergun player checks, and the +1 player bets $55. I think he's just putting in money because it's checked to him, and he's the player in position. He could be stabbing with a variety of weak holdings and basically nothing a lot of the time. So I'm just going to raise this one up, announce my hand, see where I'm at. I bet $160. Raising it on up makes the big blind fold. The under the gun pre-flop aggressor folds. That's a great pickup. And then the +1 player goes deep in the tank. He thinks for quite a long time before he decides to just jam. He only had $300 total, so that's all in. I really don't think I'm ahead here, but I'm certainly not folding for $140. So I just call and I say, I have an ace, but you're probably good. Ask him if he wants to run it twice. He says he only runs it once. So we're off to 1 run out. 5 of hearts is good. It eliminates a lot of 2 pairs and set combinations, although those probably would have called pretty quickly. And the river 3 means that we're likely good. My opponent does say ace is good, so I guess he had some clubs or some variety of a draw that was just too priced in to let it go. Ace 10 did me very well once. I'm hoping he can do it again. I looked at an ace 10 offsuit from the hijack. With a button straddle and early position limp hijack, I raised to $40. Hopefully just win because I'm not really running too well today. But the button and the limper call, so we end up going 3 ways to a flop, which comes ace, king, deuce with 2 clubs. Well, these weak aces are certainly hard to play. We flop top pair and don't even know if we're good. But we're just going to bet this one. I make it $50. Flush draws, random kings. Maybe like ace 5 is going to pay this off. Jack 10, queen 10, stuff like that. A lot of hands are just going to continue versus the small size. And the button is the only caller. When the turn is the 3 of diamonds, that one's pretty good. Pretty happy to see it. Don't think that completes any hands. I don't expect 4 or 5 to continue all that often. But I'm going to check this one to my opponent, see what he wants to do. Out of position, we're going to do a lot more checking than betting. And if my opponent checks it back, we can value bet on a lot of blank rivers. And when I check, my opponent does check it back. So we're looking for a blank, but this is not the day of blanks. It is the 9 of clubs completing the flush draw. And now I can't really value bet my hand exactly. I check to my opponent, and he bets relatively small, $75. I actually expect a flush to bet a lot bigger. I think my opponent could easily have a worse ace still, even value bet a king. He could be value betting any pair on this board. He's the type of player that will go for thin value. So this one against this particular player is not even really a debate. It's just a snap side call. And on this one, my opponent has ace 9 offsuit. He hits the 9 as a 2 pair, not even as the flush. And that's just such a tilting way to see it.
This is not happening. Believe.
I would have rather have just seen like 5, 6 of clubs. And on a final hand of note, I'm in the big blind with Jack 10 of hearts when a middle position player raised to $15. The cutoff just calls, and I decide to 3-bet this one up. Can't get even by just calling, and this hand seems to be like a fine balancing 3-bet candidate. When I make it $55, the middle position player calls, and then the cutoff calls a second time. On a flop of Jack 9 4 with 1 heart, I think my hand is likely good but vulnerable. We don't really want to check and have our opponents check back like King Queen, ace-5. Any hand that has just overs and backdoors and stuff like that, we'd rather just get range folds here. So I continue for $85, and it folds all the way to the cutoff, who raises to $300, off like a $700 stack. This opponent I had seen raise second pair several times across the session, and they often got it in and he would just get stacked and show his hand. Because there's really no draw out there, I don't really expect like pocket 4s or pocket 9s to go huge like this, because they're not really afraid of anything. So I think my opponent has like 10-8, queen 10, maybe the king queen himself, or the ace 9, which I've seen him play this exact same way several times across the session. So we're just going to get this one in here. I have backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw just in case. And when I go all in, my opponent pretty quickly calls. I ask him if he wants to run it once or twice. He says one time, and he has pocket aces.
Cock sandwich that hurt. Oh, it feels really demonic.
Now that is a hand that I certainly did not even give a microsecond of credibility that my opponent could have an overpair. Because from the cutoff, he called 15 and then just called 55. The call from the cutoff is not a very standard move with pocket aces. Maybe he was just planning a trap, and it works on me because when the one time comes out, the 5 of clubs and the king of spades will not bring me a win. This hand was absolutely devastating to see, and it definitely put the final nail in my coffin. But I would actually love a comment on this one. Let me know what you think. Maybe the huge flop raise is just always a fold with top pair mediocre kicker, but a player who has a history of raising with second pair and draws and all kinds of nonsense and getting to see them consistently, they're going to get a call out of me. And that means we are out of the game with $2,000 less dollars than we entered. Across 5 hours means I lost $400 an hour or 80 big blinds an hour.
This is not filmed directly after the session. I honestly was too mad to be able to film it right afterwards. A lot of sadness, a lot of anger, and we actually rage quit the whole challenge. Yes, there is no day 3. We just happened to lose a cruise in 2 days. Did not require 3. I feel like that's one of the reasons why I just don't do challenges all too often, bankroll challenges, anything like that. I just always bury myself in them, and it's just not a good time for me. And on the day today, I just really don't feel like I ever had a chance. I just lost so many hands early. Very notably, you know, we flop a king high flush into an ace high flush. I don't think there's any way we ever get away from that, so we're just gonna lose there. And then the final hand, that player had really just gotten it in with second pair so often. We're just never really folding here. I swear, like 15 minutes after that hand, he dusted the whole double up that I gave him and then was out. So I didn't even get a chance to get it back. Doing the same thing, just getting in with a very weak hand and not holding up. I'm just the one that usually doubles up that guy, so that was less than ideal. On the bright side, the cruise was a lot of fun, and if you have any interest in seeing how that was, I have a short little montage coming up right here. And if that's not really what you're interested in, I have a very fun win coming up in the next few days, and it'll be great to see you on that one.
Well, I lost my ass at poker, so that sucks. But luckily, vacations have already been paid for. So, yeah, we're still going to enjoy ourselves, and great. You say B-roll like I'm just going to have something fun to say.
Be funny, damn it.
Welcome to Rock Caribbean.
We entered the ship exactly 9 minutes ago. His first stop is the casino.
Where else do you go? It's like the only place to go. Play in the casino.
Oh no, who found the casino? Just be honest. Hey Luffy,
Yeah, they know better than to start the hold'em table around me.